Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello. Welcome back to the Global Sports Podcast Network, Daily English Premier League, crossing over with the Daily Liverpool and the Daily Tottenham Hotspur show. So it's an epic crossover Thursday for you this time around because it is the English Football League Cup semi-final. In my day, it was the Coca-Cola Cup. These days, they call it the Carabao Cup, but it is a piece of silverware. And I say it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, Spurs and Liverpool gunning for a treble. Still in all the competitions. I am joined by Louie Easton.
Hello. I would like it to be known that we are going for a quadruple, actually. That would be nice. But yeah, no, great to be here. Really looking forward to the match and definitely plenty of jeopardy in this one, especially since we're 1-0 down.
Yes, and representing Spurs, Chris Mervyn. Hello.
Hello. I am not going for the treble. Well, yeah, I am. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we rule out the league. That's fine.
Absolutely. But, so on this podcast, very, very early on in the season, I went on a little rant about whether or not this competition was really worth the time and effort anymore, considering the prize at stake, the prize money, obviously the place in Europe and the strain it puts on a squad competing on lots of fronts. But I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, Tottenham have got more skin in the game here because I feel like if this piece of silverware is won, that's a huge win for Ange, for Daniel Levy, for Tottenham altogether. And perhaps it's got more value than I initially thought.
You're right. It's our biggest game of the season so far, I think.
Wow.
Yes, when you're early doors, you don't really appreciate it. But obviously, you get to a semi-final, then it becomes worthy of some real merit, doesn't it? But yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, you need a real squad size to be able to compete on all fronts. We're not competing on all fronts. We're just hanging in on lots of fronts, to be fair. And we found ourselves in a situation where we had one of our best performances, obviously against Liverpool as well, of the season at home. And now we've got to do it away, and it's going to be a different proposition, so we say.
Yeah, but coming off the back of a great win at the weekend, but I certainly thought I saw a different kind of Spurs side. What was different this weekend? Why did it suddenly come together?
Yeah, you're exactly right to say it was a good performance. I think that's another one of our best ones. We've probably had three really good standout performances. That Brentford, Liverpool first leg, and Man City, I would say, probably as our standout ones where things have gone right. And it was a totally different performance. The backs against the wall stuff. They had to really play out, play for the manager. We had no real. Again, the squad is really paper thin, and they've really just got to play for each other and play for the manager. And it was really encouraging to see that they did do that and back the manager, and they got the results. And it wasn't Ange ball. The second goal was actually Ange ball, to be fair. It played it from the back, although nearly lost it in one of the passes, a bit horizontal. But that's the risk of playing Ange ball. But until we got the second goal, most Spurs fans were a bit on the edge of the seats.
Brentford have got a great home record. They'd already banged in 29 at home before that match, and you managed to keep them out. Louis, should Liverpool be worried? 1-0 down and Tottenham finding their feet?
Yeah, I think, regardless of the situation at Spurs, they'll always have good players. And I think when we went to Spurs for the previous fixture in the Carabao Cup, we did sort of look like we weren't taking it too seriously. I thought we weren't that clinical. I think some players got a little bit greedy and a little bit complacent. And in the end, it was a last-minute winner from Bergvall. Maybe there is the argument he shouldn't have been on the pitch. I think, take that with a pinch of salt. But with the match this time going to Anfield, I think you have to see us as favourites, because no matter who the manager is, what the situation is, an Anfield night will always be difficult for a visiting team. Real Madrid struggled there, Bayer Leverkusen struggled there, City struggled there earlier this season. I think you have to see us as favourites. Absolutely.
You're putting us in the same fold as Real Madrid. I'm so flattered.
You both wear white.
And both played Champions League finals against us in recent years as well.
That is true. Yeah,
we don't talk about that final. Yeah,
I think we do.
I think there's a lot of neutrals who also don't talk about that final, to be fair.
Yeah, that is true.
Now the semi-final, that's a good match.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah, 100%. Of course, we talked about the prize at stake being potentially Ange keeps his job and Spurs get some silverware. But also the prize, if Tottenham hold out against Liverpool, is potentially, we don't know as of the time of recording, a North London derby in the Carabao Cup final.
Yeah, I called it with some of my friends. Because obviously, most Spurs fans have friends who are Arsenal fans. It's kind of the law. And I said, mate, I bet that happens. And obviously, they're going down 2-0 in the first leg. I don't think any teams come back from 2-0 down in a semi-final in the second leg, to be fair. But they had a great win at the weekend. You could say Man City made their own issues and caused their own issues there. But at the same point, it, like us, a couple of wins on the bounce, breeds consistency, a bit of spirit in the team as well. Again, they didn't go in for a striker because they scored 5 goals before, I think. So,
yeah, funny enough, both kind of sentiments from that Arsenal performance against City, but also this Brentford Spurs performance, seeing teams that are now kind of taking games by the scruff of their neck and getting results. And it does worry me that not only are Spurs in form, but they look like they're willing to fight and they look like they're going to come to Anfield with the bit between their teeth. And so far, Liverpool have been unstoppable, but also not entirely convincing across 90 minutes. What do you reckon, Louie?
Well, I mean, we've only lost once all season in the Premier League. So, give us credit.
There was no contentious referee issues there, was there, on any of those matches? Carry on.
Okay.
You brought Bergvall to the game early doors, all right? I'm putting it
there. Anyway, I mean, if you're talking about Liverpool performances, you have to say that we have flashes in every game. And, when you have someone like Salah in your team, you can just rely on him to score at any given moment. But I understand what you're saying about some of our performances may not look overly convincing because we still drew a few this season as well, and we've had to rely on a little bit of luck at times. But we have got quality there, absolutely. We did go through our rough patch earlier, and also we are playing another midweek game next week, which will tire us out even more when everyone else gets a bit of a rest, unless they didn't make it into the next round of the FA Cup this weekend. I don't know, but I still do fancy our chances, even if we do have an off day, just because of Anfield.
Yeah, I think that's a huge advantage, and also there is a lot of strength in depth in that squad. I am going to ask Chris about Tottenham's acquisitions in the squad in a moment, but first, let's hear about Zencastr.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we've spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and let me tell you, Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, then check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
What's an advert? What's an advert? I want to know who that is. That can't be his real accent. There's no way. He's got to be putting that on.
He's on the big quality. Yeah, top quality voice acting you get on this podcast. So please stay tuned to the Global Sports Podcast Network. Squad depth. Spurs, I think, have done some decent business. What do you reckon, Chris?
Well, we had to, but it's all business which we should have done in the summer, as many Spurs fans would tell you. And we talk about it quite a lot on Daily Tottenham, to be fair. And it's all stuff which, it should have been done a lot earlier. And that's why we've got our issues now, because like we said about squads, they need to be quite deep to be able to play on all fronts. And when they're not, injuries happen because they're just tired. And that's when injuries happen, you don't have to be a major sportsman to know that if you go out for a run and then try doing a run the next day afterwards, you're going to pull something at some point. But yeah, we left it relatively late, and it's went off then, and it's fairly good buys, I think, with Danso as a centre back, and then obviously Tell coming in on the loan with the right to buy as well.
Brilliant player, Tell.
Yeah, I think
Brilliant
he's
player.
good. He can make a difference, I think, and he might make a difference in the next couple of games. So,
I mean, with Bayern Munich, you just feel for some of the youngsters that don't get into the team because you know how good they are. And whenever Tell has played, I've noticed that, especially last season with Bayern Munich, people were calling out for him to start playing. And I think it's brilliant for Spurs to negotiate a buy option into his contract alongside the loan fee because he gives you so much quality. And just because someone doesn't get much playtime at a huge club doesn't mean that they can't then become brilliant players. I mean,
he's behind Kane, isn't he? So he's not going to get much game time.
He can also play on the left wing, and he's struggling to get in when they have so many winger options. Elise, Gnabry, Sane, Musiala. So I mean, it's so difficult for him to break into that team. But he is honestly, I've seen him play, and he is special. He's one of these players that can just wriggle his way out of trouble with 4 players around him, and then find weird ways of scoring. And
he's a player we haven't had at Spurs, to be honest. And we've had some good signings, and Solanke's done really well, to be honest. But we haven't got anybody who can make a difference, especially off the bench, with his speed against maybe a bit tired defence as well. So you say about Liverpool sort of not being always consistent and having to rely on individual brilliance sometimes for Salah in most occasions, and your midfield as well, to be fair. Then I think that's the same. We haven't had that. We haven't had the luxury of it coming off the bench. We've had Werner come off the bench. With respect, hopefully Tell's a lot better.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is. It's like a Gravenberch situation, just not being able to quite break in, but then as soon as he leaves, and I think this will happen, he'll show some class and, maybe transform the team. He's still young as well, Matthias Tell. How old is he again?
I think he's 19.
19, yeah, 19.
That's just crazy. Sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, and I think also, we've seen a bit of this, I think, throughout the window. Decent loan deals that benefit everyone involved. I think it's a good move for Bayern, a good move for Tottenham, good move for Tels, to the point where I'm a little concerned about what he might be able to do if he starts or if he comes on in this fixture. Chris, do you think he'll start?
No, he'll come off the bench, I think. And that's the best way to use him, I think, in this instance, because he's going to have, 2 days training. Different formation, different setups. I think he'll probably stick with a similar. Well, are we talking about the lineups now or no?
Yes, please. Let's
talk about lineups. Wow. Yeah. Right. I think we'll stick to pretty much what we had previously, obviously without Dragosan. So I think that it will be Davies and Gray, and I think Danzo will stay on the bench as well.
Wow,
could be wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
Archie Gray is also having he had a really good game against Brentford. In his post-match interview, he did talk about how important it was having Davies next to him, kind of just that experience. And I thought he put in a hell of a shift against Brentford as well. Big ask against the likes of Salah and co. You've got a clean sheet at home. Anfield, do you reckon Spurs can keep the door shut?
Nope.
Who's that question to?
Sorry, that's for Chris.
Okay.
Nope, we'll concede.
Okay.
Because that's just I'm a pragmatist anyway. I think he's gonna be relatively close. If we don't throw it away, but I think they'll do the same as they did against Brentford anyway, because that's the way we have to play currently. He hasn't got the players. You can't go and embrace a Grand Prix with a trike, and that's what he's trying to do. So essentially, he'll have a block in midfield. Very similar to what we had before, and then I think it'll be 2 lines of defence almost a little bit. We've got to a lead to defend as well, which that's a positive, and we can always catch teams on the counter, regardless of who they are. We just got to have that quality of finishing, and that's what's been missing a little bit, and that comes with confidence as well. So I'm always I'll never say we're going to get beaten because I always believe in my team. So I'm not doing a score prediction yet. I'll do it later.
I will come to a score prediction. But Louis, on
hate those.
onto the subject of kind of teams, interesting that Becker, Alisson Becker started against Spurs. I think it was quite indicative that actually Liverpool take this this competition seriously. In fact, did he start or was it Kelleher?
No, I think it was Kelleher that started the last one.
I think I read that Alisson might start this game.
I'd be surprised if he did, because I mean Kelleher has proven himself as a very, very capable goalkeeper.
Yeah,
and I also think this will be his last season in a Liverpool shirt. I can't see him staying in the squad once Mamardashvili comes in the summer. And Alisson, you're just not gonna. We're not gonna sell Alisson.
No.
I think we all know that he's too good to get rid of, and I don't think he wants to go either. So I do think Kelleher will start based on the fact that he seems like the EFL Cup designated goalkeeper at the moment, and we've seen that in previous seasons under Klopp. And Kelleher deserves to play. I don't think he did anything wrong against Spurs. But yeah, I think this is a sort of Curtis Jones game as well. I can see him playing in midfield.
Yeah, I'm worried about him.
You're worried about because he came on and he got an assist against Bournemouth earlier in the week, and he's sort of been at the centre of stick when he's played at the number 10, just because he's not Dominic Szoboszlai. And very few players are. And I also think Curtis Jones's best football is played from deep. I can't remember which game it was when he did that ridiculous through ball to Mo Salah on the counter attack. But when he's capable of that, and when we have a squad to rotate, I think this is the sort of game where he can start and maybe be a difference. But I don't see him as a sort of player that can come alive when the game's in need of a bit of genius. I think he sort of plays on the vibe of the team a little bit. And I don't really rate his finishing. I think he's the sort of player that's really good for sort of passing to someone before they get an assist. And he's sort of, playing on the turn. I think that's where he plays his best football. So I can see him starting this game, but I would be surprised if he scores. And now he's going to score just because I said that.
Well, one player who probably will start because Trent is injured is Connor Bradley. And Connor Bradley has had quite a season already, hasn't he, Louis?
He has, yeah. I mean, he was my favourite. He was responsible for my favourite moment against Real Madrid when he flew in on Kylian Mbappe. And yeah, Arne Slot has confirmed that he will, that Trent will not be playing. So I think this is the sort of game where he will put in a really good shift. And also, since Joe Gomez is injured, we can't really afford for him to get injured. So we need him to step up now, and we need him to be a bit safe. I don't want him diving into too many tackles. I don't want him doing too many of those Kylian Mbappe tackles. Because who comes in once he's gone? No one.
Oh, gosh.
Probably Jarell Quansah again.
Yes.
So, yeah. But I think he will. He's brilliant with energy. He's not an absolute genius while attacking, but he will do the odd flashy bit of skill, and he has so much confidence. Since he is the captain of Northern Ireland already.
He's a better defender, isn't he? Than
yeah. I mean, that's a good question.
What you losing going forward? I guess you gain a little bit in defence, but do you think that or not?
Well, the thing is, Trent. I think people have very short memories with Trent Alexander-Arnold because I thought he was fantastic in defence at the beginning of this season, but he was sacrificing his attacking play for that. Yeah. He has offered a bit more going forward in recent weeks and then, sacrificed a little bit of defensive. But I think, when he's up against an out-and-out dribbler, he either has a very good day or he has a very bad day. Against Manchester United, he had an awful day. And that's why we didn't win that game. We drew 2-2 at Anfield, which, is as good as a loss when it's Manchester United and we're that much better than them. So I think it really depends on what Arne Slot is going for. Michal, what are you doing? No, you were not.
Nice to see you there, buddy.
Great to see you. See you later.
Brilliant.
I think we have to leave that in.
I have to explain what happened there for the listeners on Spotify.
Yeah, so we just had someone accidentally join our Zencastr meeting.
Always
anyway,
nice to see him, but unexpected.
Yeah, big fan of him. Anyway, as I was saying, I completely lost my track of thought now.
I think whatever you're saying was really controversial, and Mikhail just had to turn up.
Yeah.
It was like VAR jumping in. Oh, actually,
he's a Man United fan as well, so he heard me mention that. He just turned up. He spawned.
Got a bit excited mentioning 2-2.
Yeah. So I think it really does depend on what Arne Slot is going for. If he wants a more creative player going forward, then it's more a Trent thing. But Conor Bradley isn't the sort of player that will just send an inch perfect ball into the box. I think he will be more of a traditional right back in this one.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think sometimes players do get sort of tired with a brush that they're not very good at defensively, etc. And it is really the tactics and what the manager wants and how he sets the team up sometimes as well. We have it with Porro as well. Yes, he's not. I'm not comparing those two, by the way, but Porro gets slated for always being up the field and never being very good at defence because he's out of position, etc. But that's because he's asked to push on usually, and actually when he sits back, he can defend. It's just obviously you've got to have a hell of a good engine to be able to defend and attack.
I think Porro is a good player, but he's just been in a very difficult season. I think most players in Spurs have been struggling a lot.
I almost thought you were going to say he's just been in a shit team. Excuse my French.
You're going to now cut that word out.
No, you don't. It's university.
Thanks for that, Chris. You've given Marcus a lot of work to do after this.
I'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
Luckily, Marcus. Zencastr gets rid of oohs, ahs, and shids. Hang on.
Marcus, I would just like to apologise, by the way. Alisson did play in the EFL Cup match. It was the FA Cup match that he played in, so I got them confused in my head. Sorry.
Too many.
Cut that bit out as well, if you like.
This is why we do preparation.
It's obviously Liverpool are competing on too many fronts for that potential quadruple. But before we come back to some thoughts about Spurs competing on 3 fronts still, let's hear more about GSPN.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
I think I'm going to do the rest of the podcast in that accent now.
It is such a soothing tone compared to our rants about football and players, etc. So much more still I wanted to ask you guys. But you touched upon it a little bit there, Louie. We talked about squad depth, and Chris, you quite rightly pointed out, the amount of depth you need to compete on all these fronts. Little eye on the weekend, because Liverpool will travel to Plymouth, who are bottom of the Championship, away for their FA Cup fixture.
Look at their home record. It is good.
Oh,
okay. Let me see this. I must admit, I haven't done much research about Plymouth for this episode because I thought we wouldn't even get onto it.
I must admit, I've not done much research on Plymouth as well. But I am actually more curious with Aston Villa away in the FA Cup on Sunday.
I've not done much research on that, to be honest.
How are Tottenham going to take this competition? Because obviously this is a real chance at getting a trophy and second season trophy, but also an FA Cup fixture coming up. Do you think there'll be any of that kind of in the back of the squad selection for Spurs?
Nope, they can't be. It's one game at a time. That's the simple answer, because at the end of the day, we haven't got a squad deep enough to plan ahead, and those days are gone, unfortunately. We've got a few players we can rotate, but essentially we are still on bare bones until other players come back, and unfortunately they're not quick injuries to heal, and obviously Dragosan's out now with an ACL to the end of the season, so great Danso's in, but we needed another one on top of that anyway, because Van de Ven is a little bit sore. as well.
Yeah, and
poor guy.
you've got some, during that European game you guys just had, we saw the academy players playing with kind of no fear and showing what they're capable of, bagging goals, etc. So hopefully on the up for Tottenham. Just finally on Spurs, we made a lot about kind of how important this competition is now that teams are in the semi-final and can see the silverware on the horizon. What is, at this point in the season, early February, what is a good season for Tottenham? If it comes to May, what do you want to see?
Well, you've got to say we have to go for a silverware, because ultimately our league position is going to be pretty shot to give us any chance of getting into some European competition anyway. So at one point, a couple of games ago, I would have taken anything. Even to stay in the league. Jeez. No, but seriously, we've had some really key matches to get through, and getting through the Europe match, the two matches there actually, and Brentford, and now Liverpool. It's kind of all amalgamated together. We've just got to get through every game as we can do, and not plan too far ahead. Of course, the manager will have feelings about what he can do to change and rotate, because obviously the turnaround time is ridiculous for all teams playing in all competitions, and Liverpool's exactly the same, of course. It's just that they've got less players injured than we have, and you see teams doing really well, like Bournemouth this year, having injuries which are similar to what we have, but they're only playing one game a week, so they can rest and rotate players as well, and we don't have that. So yeah, difficult. You can't cry too much, because ultimately you want to be in competitions as long as you can, and ultimately try your best to get to finals and then win.
It's also good because it softens the blow when it comes around as well, when you play us.
Oh.
So on to you then, Louie. Obviously, Liverpool, I think it's fair to say, are in a much brighter position than any Liverpool fan could have hoped for.
Yeah.
I am genuinely worried about Tottenham coming to Anfield in the form that they're in, with the hunger they've got. I still think it will be Liverpool going through to the final. And I know you love this question, but score prediction, how's it going to end?
No. I'm going to say that I don't think Spurs will score, just because just because I think Virgil van Dijk is in too fine form at the moment. He hasn't really put a foot wrong recently. When we did lose to PSV, Van Dijk wasn't playing. We were playing a bunch of kids that day. And I just think, the way Liverpool have been playing recently has been good. I think the Bournemouth one, we were a bit lucky, but I do think it was a penalty. I will say that. I do think it was a penalty from Lewis Cook. He didn't protest. Why should we? And, I just think Spurs, what will happen is Spurs will probably park the bus. As soon as Anfield gets a bit loud and Liverpool get a bit of energy, we'll score. And then we'll just have to play and win the midfield battles like we have been doing all season. And then we'll get another, and then we'll sit back for the rest of the game. That's what, because this season, more than any other season from Liverpool, since maybe when Klopp started, when we had Emre Can and Lucas Leiva and those players, we have looked so comfortable without the ball, and that's why I'm saying 2-0 Liverpool. I think we'll do enough, but we won't do overkill. I don't see that happening.
I think potentially Spurs will give a bit more than that, and I can see Liverpool not breaking them down for a very, very long time, and it coming down to the legs on the pitch. But Chris, what do you think? Predictions wise, do you think Spurs will get a goal? Do you think you'll get the result?
I was just checking if Van Dijk played against in the first leg, and he did, and we scored. So that's weird. But anyway, and also,
wasn't his fault?
Have you just got one man in defence? Just asking.
So
one man doesn't make a team, does it?
But I've seen Van Dijk not concede a goal when he was 3-on-1. So. And plus, it's Virgil van Dijk, man. It's not just anyone.
He's a good player, very, very good player.
He's the best centre back in Premier League history.
Oh,
he is. Oh.
A sharp intake of breath from Chris Mervyn.
I think there's been others, but
he's going to say Ledley King.
That's for don't knock Ledley King for a start.
I was
To
going
any
to say,
Spurs
he
fan.
was
He's a brilliant player.
I
but
will reach
incredible.
through this microphone and give you a slap. All right. But anyway, that's for. He's the best centre back in Premier League history. That's another conversation for another podcast. I think that we're going to go and we will concede, and I think we'll concede in the first half. I think we'll probably be a little bit nervous and we'll sit back a bit too far, and Liverpool will come on to us. And their press is excellent anyway, as it was in the first leg, to be fair. And then I think after half time, we will get a goal and it will finish 1-1. And my money's on Tell.
Oh, so widely differing opinions.
Called it.
I think it's going to be an incredible game no matter what. And that's coming from someone who started this season talking about, why we're still having this competition. Gents, it's been a real pleasure. Listeners, remember, you can check out the daily Tottenham Hotspur podcast and the daily Liverpool podcast and, of course, the daily English Premier League podcast on the Global Sports Podcast Network. You've been listening to Chris.
Thank you very much.
And Louie.
Thank you.
And I've been Marcus Ramtohul. You've been listening to the Global Sports Podcast Network. Today we've been covering Daily English Premier League, Daily Tottenham Hotspur and the Daily Liverpool. And we'll see you next time.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.